Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering games. Game companies are in crisis as consumers refuse to buy DEI games. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Ubisoft and BioWare are facing massive financial losses and layoffs due to their focus on DEI-driven storytelling and political messaging in recent game releases. Assassin's Creed Shadows has sparked controversy by centering its story on Yasuke, a black samurai, despite historical evidence showing he was never actually a samurai. The Japanese government has challenged Ubisoft's portrayal of Yasuke with accusations that the game is based on exaggerated or fabricated research. Ubisoft has invested hundreds of millions of dollars into Assassin's Creed Shadows, delaying its release multiple times, but gamers are already rejecting the games due to its forced narrative. Ubisoft is also rumored to have made Yasuke an LGBT character, further fueling accusations that the game is prioritizing identity politics over historical accuracy or just producing a good playable game. Dragon Age: The Veilguard was a massive failure, with sales reportedly 50% below EA's expectations, leading to immediate financial consequences for BioWare. The game was widely criticized for its heavy-handed political messaging, including trans dragons, gender ideology themes, and overt LGBT representation that felt forced. EA has begun downsizing BioWare, laying off employees, and restructuring the company after the Veilguard failure. The failure of these games proves that gamers are rejecting forced diversity and political narratives, choosing instead to support games that focus on quality storytelling and gameplay. The trend of get woke, go broke is hitting gaming hard, with major studios that embrace social justice themes now struggling to just stay in business. Despite years of social pressure, gamers have refused to accept politically driven games, resulting in declining sales for studios that prioritize activism over entertainment. Ubisoft and BioWare were once considered top-tier developers, but their recent decisions have alienated their core audience and put their futures in jeopardy. Ubisoft's struggles are part of a larger industry-wide trend, as other developers who embrace similar messaging are also facing declining sales and huge consumer backlash. Gamers are now informed more than ever, identifying woke narratives in games long before release and rejecting them outright. And like we often say about TV shows and movies, if there's negative buzz in advance of the project getting released, it really doesn't have a chance to succeed. If there's positive buzz, it's got a decent chance. And social media has become more important in people making buying decisions and even just relying on basic information like news. The downfall of Ubisoft and BioWare serve as a warning to other game studios, proving that prioritizing ideology over entertainment leads to total financial disaster. And whenever I do a story on the video game industry and people's rejection of these woke ideologies and these themes, people always ask me, when do you think we're going to see a turnaround on this? And my response is always, look, it does happen eventually. It's been happening in TV shows, it's been happening in movies, it will happen in video games. We don't exactly know when, but for the people that are in charge of these franchises, they're losing so many millions of dollars worth of value in these franchises. At some point, they stop and then they reboot the thing and start all over again. It happened with Pixar, it's happened with Marvel, although Marvel still has some problems. Even if it's with a new owner that buys out a failed franchise, it will happen with gaming. Coming from Zero Hedge Gay Dragons and Black Samurai, woke game companies in crisis as consumers walk away. And coming from thatparkplace.com, a great website, you should definitely check them out. BioWare layoffs begin as EA purges Dragon Age: The Veilguard activist developers. The entertainment sector has been at the core of the woke movement over the course of the last 10 years, integrating critical race theory, feminism, gay and trans propaganda, climate change hysteria, anti-gun rights messaging, and pro-socialist rhetoric into their content at breakneck speed. One group of consumers noticed the threat very early on. Gamers picked up on the leftist subversion of their hobby almost immediately in 2013. They would go on to launch Gamergate in 2014, a movement to expose the feminist hijacking of games journalism and the hobby at large. They were punished for their foresight, accused of misogyny, bigotry, racism, and even terrorism, but they were correct. There was indeed a far-left agenda to dominate the gaming world and extort companies into adopting social justice propaganda. The plan succeeded spectacularly. Most companies eventually folded and instituted DEI programs outright. Gaming developers were some of the worst perpetrators, and their products quickly became replete with woke indoctrination. The one thing they didn't count on, though, was a consumer revolt. It's hard to say exactly what these companies expected to happen. Maybe they assumed that once the market was saturated with leftist content, the average customer would give up hoping for a normal game with a good story, compelling characters, and fun mechanics and simply buy whatever the critics told them to buy. Instead, gamers adopted buying anything and walked away. Part of the reason these companies believed that eventually people would just buy whatever they put out was because the people pushing this ideology, the professional class, the people that consider themselves a professional class, tend to just listen to whatever their authorities tell them. They accept appeals to authority. So if they learned in college this is what they should believe, that's what they would do. Even the medical profession. There are very few independent doctors. A lot of doctors will just do what the state tells them to do. Even if it makes no sense, they'll just accept it as true because they'll assume it must be right. So it's not like the people pushing this agenda are the type to really think outside the box. And they assume everyone else is like that or everyone else should be like that. And while a lot of people are like that, a lot of us are not. Instead, gamers just stopped buying anything and walked away. Any product with leftist messaging, race swapping, LGBT characters or situations is now exposed long before the project is released. The more insidious developers have actually sought to stop people from reporting on the content of these games using intimidation and legal maneuvers, but nothing they do can save them. These businesses are rightfully collapsing. More recent casualties include Ubisoft, which reportedly stands on the edge of financial ruin due to multiple woke failures. Ubisoft is also sitting on perhaps one of the most woke AAA game releases of all time, Assassin's Creed Shadows. The group hitched their wagon to an activist historian named Thomas Locke with a wild tale, the supposedly true story of a black slave named Yasuki who traveled on a Portuguese ship to Japan and ultimately became a samurai. Instead of just making a game about a Japanese samurai, they instead chose to use Locke's research as the basis for their plot. Leftists are known to be particularly hostile towards the Japanese because of their highly controlled immigration policies, and featuring a black samurai protagonist is obviously meant as a jab at the Japanese culture. As it turns out, Locke's research is likely exaggerated or fabricated and has been accused by the Japanese government of potential fraud. Yasuki was never a samurai. He was treated as an oddity by the Japanese emperor who had never seen a black man before. He became a fixture at the emperor's court for a short period, but was never given the title of samurai. Nor did he have time to learn any of the warrior disciplines that samurai are known for. The man existed, but the idea of him being a samurai is completely ridiculous. Statements made by Ubisoft also seem to indicate the characters of Assassin's Creed will be gay, including Yasuki. So a black gay samurai in feudal Japan who is supposed to be an assassin? Absolute genius. He wouldn't stand out at all. Ubisoft is now stuck with this project. Hundreds of millions of dollars already invested, and they've delayed the release multiple times. Most gamers are well informed of the fallacies and propaganda in the title, and it's expected to bomb hard once it finally hits the market. The company is now engaging in mass layoffs across multiple studios, apparently in preparation for the vast sums of money they know they're going to lose. Another big developer that's in the midst of an implosion is BioWare, which is now being downsized by Electronic Arts after the embarrassing release of their highly expensive Dragon Age: The Veilguard title. The company hired gay and trans consultants and developers to inject LGBT propaganda into the fantasy project, and the results were hilariously bad, including trans dragon people and gay pirates preaching about neo-pronouns. The layoffs come less than 2 weeks after Dragon Age game director Corinne Brush announced her own departure from BioWare, and just a week after EA said Veilguard had underperformed sales expectations. In reality, the game was an unmitigated failure. EA said Veilguard was down nearly 50% from the company's expectations. Game developers were some of the first people to join the woke insurrection of American media, so it's fitting that they're now among the first people to go bankrupt and lose their jobs because of it. Hopefully, these collapsing companies will stand as a smoldering reminder that the consumer runs the show, not the creators. The free market is still a thing, and it decides if a game is going to succeed or crash and burn. The gaming industry and its hubris has been begging for a slap in the face for years, and now they have it. When people lose their jobs, it's almost always a bad thing. In this case, it's not a bad thing. This company needs to have some accountability so they never do something like this again. The BioWare layoffs have officially begun in the wake of Dragon Age: The Veilguard's catastrophic failure. Despite BioWare's initial restructuring announcement noting that it would be moving team members to other EA divisions and avoiding the word layoffs entirely, the reality has now become clear. Developers who worked on Veilguard are being cut. This comes shortly after Veilguard director Corinne Bush's exit, though few believe the disgraced director left by choice after overseeing one of the most disastrous releases in BioWare's history. Just yesterday, BioWare released a statement in a post on the studio's official blog. Studio General Manager Gary McKay announced that the company is shifting its focus entirely to the next Mass Effect game, effectively sidelining Dragon Age after the latest installment's disastrous reception. Well, given the stage of development, we don't require support from the full studio, McKay said. We have incredible talent here at BioWare, and so we've worked diligently over the past few months to match many of our colleagues with other teams at EA that had open roles that were a strong fit. Among those let go are Trick Weeks and Karen West Weeks, two longtime BioWare veterans who confirmed their departures on Blue Sky. Trick Weeks, who served as Veilguard's lead writer, previously worked on every game and expansion in the original Mass Effect trilogy, Dragon Age Origins, and Inquisition. Karen Weeks, an editor with credits on Mass Effect 2, 3, Andromeda, and multiple Dragon Age titles, was also removed. The BioWare layoffs extend beyond writing staff, with producers, system designers, analysts, and other team members also cut as EA guts the studio to refocus on Mass Effect. Both Trick and Karen confirmed that they were let go through posts on Blue Sky. The BioWare layoffs extend well beyond the high-profile departures of Dragon Age: The Veilguard's lead writer and editor. More key developers across multiple disciplines have also been shown the door as EA continues its aggressive restructuring of the studio. Among them is Ryan Cormier, an editor who worked at Star Wars: The Old Republic, Anthem, and Veilguard. His departure further signals that BioWare is moving away from the team responsible for its most recent flop, likely in an attempt to salvage what remains of the studio's reputation. Also cut was Jennifer Chevrolet, a longtime BioWare veteran who served as a tester, analyst, and producer on multiple major projects, including Mass Effect 3, Dragon Age Inquisition, Anthem, and Veilguard. With her exit, BioWare is shedding another figure tied to its modern development pipeline, one that has largely struggled to deliver the kind of quality experiences that define the studio's golden era. And the layoffs did not stop there. Daniel Steed, a producer who worked on Star Wars: The Old Republic, Legacy of the Sith, and Veilguard, is out, as well as Lena Anderson, a senior product manager. This latest development further highlights the fallout from the Veilguard's commercial disaster. EA had projected the game would sell over 10 million copies across its lifespan. Instead, it barely managed to engage 1.5 million players, with reports indicating over 30,000 returns and widespread retailer discounting. GameStop recently slashed the price of brand new copies to $24.99, a staggering 65% drop from its launch price of $69.99, and tanked its trade-in value after just 1 week. It's a clear sign that demand is completely cratered, leaving EA scrambling to mitigate the damage. The BioWare layoffs are a direct response to the studio's failure to connect with players, as Veilguard prioritized identity politics over compelling storytelling and world building. Fans rejected the game's tone and lack of depth, leading to its financial collapse. With the developers responsible now being shown the door, EA appears to be acknowledging that this direction was a mistake. At the same time, BioWare has assured fans that the next Mass Effect is in the hands of veterans from the original trilogy. Unlike Veilguard, which alienated its core audience, this announcement might signal a return to form for the franchise, but there's no guarantee of that. The BioWare layoffs mark a major shift for the studio. EA is clearly trying to distance itself from Veilguard's failure and rebuild BioWare around its more successful franchises. With Mass Effect now its sole focus, the studio has one last chance to regain the trust of players and prove it can deliver a great game. Whether it succeeds remains to be unseen, but at least at this time, it won't be bogged down by the same mistakes that doomed Veilguard. It really goes to show that sometimes companies, just like people, need to learn things the hard way. This trend was obviously in play for several years now. The companies knew this. The developers knew this. But they needed to lose hundreds of millions of dollars before they could make the right move. I don't know if they have the right management team in place to actually pull off an excellent game anymore. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But we do know people are watching on social media very carefully to see what people say. And if they don't convince gamers they have something good, they're not going to buy their games. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. And if you want to support the channel and help me make even more videos, click the join button to become a member of the channel. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you again soon with another video.